The NHS in England is to get an extra £3.8 billion next year. The money is to pay partly for a full 7-day-a-week health service. But news of the extra money comes a day before the Chancellor's autumn statement, in which he's expected to outline cuts to public health schemes. Here's our health correspondent, Adam Brimelow.
Emergency rescue. The NHS is in crisis, missing vital targets including ambulance response times, waits in A&E and cancer treatment. All signs the system's struggling to cope with growing demand. After weeks of haggling, ministers and health service leaders are back in step over NHS spending plans for the next 5 years. They'd already agreed on the need for an extra £8 billion a year by 2020. The big question was how quickly this would be phased in. This year's NHS budget is just over £100 billion. Ministers have agreed an extra £3.8 billion next year. That's on top of inflation. And the annual increases will continue to reach nearly £8.5 billion a year by 2020. The government says it all adds up to an extra £10 billion when you factor in extra money that went in this year.
We're giving the money up front so the NHS can implement its own plan to improve services for patients. There'll have to be savings elsewhere in government spending to pay for this, but it just goes to show you can only have a strong NHS if you have a strong economy.
NHS leaders are relieved the extra money is coming in sooner rather than later, but they warn there's still a long way to go.
We made the case for front-loaded investment in the National Health Service, and that's what we've got. And the reason it's so important is that we've got to do two things. We've got to relieve the pressure on frontline nurses and doctors and hospital services right now, and we've got to invest in the new services that we know the health service will need over the next 5 years.
NHS trusts say it'll still feel like a tough spending settlement.
Great to get an extra 10 billion, particularly when other departments are having significant reductions, but this will still be the longest and the deepest financial squeeze in NHS history between 2010 and between 2020.
Concerns remain about funding for programmes to prevent poor health and social care, which fall outside NHS budgets. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will receive a proportionate increase in line with extra health spending in England, but details of this won't emerge until tomorrow. Adam Brimelow, BBC News.